to That's Life. Kathleen, my partner, this is going to be an interesting program, I think, today. We have 2 vignettes that we're going to be seeing. We're going to start with Cecilia, and we have not seen Cecilia for quite some time.
I know. I'm looking forward to seeing her.
Yes, absolutely. Cecilia has been with us since the beginning, so we'll see what she's coming in to talk to you about today.
I know.
You don't have a clue.
I don't.
All right, the second vignette then we're having is a character that we introduced quite recently. It is Sarah, who is played by Carol Tippett. And Sarah, in our last show, exhibited a great lack of sympathy with disabilities.
Exactly.
And by the end of that show, she had had an attack of sorts.
Yep.
And had become disabled herself.
Yeah.
So I suspect she's coming in to follow up with that.
I think that's right, probably, yes.
All right, well, we'll stop now and have the vignettes.
Hey, Cecilia, I feel like I haven't seen you in a while.
Well, it has been a long time since I've been in, but I miss talking to you.
I know. I'm good to have you back in.
Well, you remember I've been coming for such a long time to see you.
Right.
Starting with my heart surgery and all the problems I had, and with my daughters and so forth. But now I've come with kind of a different question, really.
Okay.
My daughter and her partner have asked to borrow some money, and I have given them, on a loan, $50,000 to buy a house.
Okay.
And they've given me a contract so that they are paying me so much a month and it will be returned. But now, will that affect me and as far as a benevolent care fund, if I ever have to use it?
Yeah, well, such a good idea for you to come in and ask that question, because it could potentially impact your ability to use the benevolent care fund if it weren't paid back timely or something like that. But probably most importantly right now, I would say this is a really good time for you to connect with the finance office.
Oh.
Because the director, Ron Taylor, is really offering, I think it's a great idea for residents who have concerns about their finances, for him to go over sort of what their status is, do a forecast, and really just give you an idea of, what is, projecting out what your needs might be, what the costs might be, and then looking at what assets you still have, potentially be able to say how long before you would potentially need to go into your down payment. So that would be what I would suggest for you.
Of course, if I stayed in my apartment, my expenses would be much less than if I have to go, I think, over to Garden Ridge. So that's an unknown.
That's an unknown.
But what is this term I've heard of, spend down? What does that mean?
Well, the spend down is when you reach a point where your monthly income is not able to cover your monthly expenses anymore. So if you have, whatever you have in terms of monthly income coming in plus any additional assets that you have, if those are kind of gone, and how much money you've got coming in on a monthly basis is no longer able to cover the needs that you have. And it is exactly what you say. It's when you get to a point where maybe you're in independent living, but you need some home support or private duty, or if you are considering maybe moving to Garden Ridge, if you would benefit from assisted living, that's when you know that your expenses are really gonna go up significantly.
So when my assets are completely diminished.
But again, everybody's situation is a little bit different. So that would be where I would say that's why it's just such a great idea to go talk with Ron and sort of get an idea and really just give him all the information and let him help you sort that out.
Well, when that time comes, would they make me take a smaller apartment, for instance, so that my expenses would be less? Or can I stay in the apartment I'm in now?
Yeah, you can stay
I guess I haven't been exactly honest with you, or basically, with this $50,000 gone, I'm pretty much out of funds.
Oh, okay. So you're not able to pay your monthly expenses right
No, and I don't know how long it's going to be till they can pay this $50,000. That could be, that could be a gift as far as they're concerned.
Yeah.
I mean, as for their returning it. I know they have good intentions, but I don't know that it's going to happen.
Okay,
So I'm almost at that point that I need to talk to you or Ron or somebody about what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah. Well, truly, you are at that point. If your resources aren't sufficient for your monthly bills, then you really are going to already have to dip into your deposit, which is sort of from the standpoint of going into a spend down. That would be where you're at. And I honestly am worried if you're not able to get the daughters to pay back that amount. That it could very well jeopardize your ability to access the benevolent care. So first things first is we'll just get you over to Ron and let him talk that through with you.
Well, are there any other ramifications of this, or?
Yeah, well, yeah, I don't want to like strike terror in your heart or anything, but I mean it is serious. I have to say it's very serious, and you've kind of done something that we don't know, whether it can be fixed at some level, if it's dependent on your daughter being able to come up with the $50,000. But if you were to go to Garden Ridge and be in long-term care, that gift, if that ends up being a gift of $50,000, would also impact your ability to get Medicaid.
Oh, really?
Yeah, that's also something that I think their look back is like 10 years.
Oh,
There's
really?
a long look back for being able to have given away a significant amount of your assets. So anyhow, a little bit of a pickle, right?
Yes, that is.
Yeah.
I didn't realize it was so, imminent and such a dire thing that I've done.
I know. And I feel like a lot of our residents, they want to do, if their kids need help, they want to be able to help them. But in the long run, I feel like we've talked about this before a little bit. You have to sort of look after yourself first. So, but since this is a done deal, there might be a way to rectify it. But I think the first thing you need to do is just talk to Ron and then see how it goes. Get that information too.
Okay, well, I don't know that they can pay it back, but I could certainly present this issue to them, and maybe they can get a loan someplace else.
Yeah.
So then I would be okay if I get that money back. It's as though it didn't happen.
That's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So anyhow, I don't want you to worry unnecessarily, which is why I really want you to get you to Ron, because he'll be able to just sort of, get it down to the actual numbers and be able to, again, forecast what you're looking at.
Well, when you're on spend down or on the benevolent care even, how does that work as far as how much money I would be allowed to keep on a monthly basis to live?
Well, the money is going to be coming out of your deposit.
Yes.
So you'll be using, as long as you use it for your needs, whether they be medical needs or personal needs, that's okay. But certainly, you're not going to want, going to want to conserve your resources at that point and not give gifts and things like that.
Oh, yeah.
No more gifts.
No.
You're on a budget now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's a hard lesson to learn, isn't it?
It is. Yeah, it really is. So I hope it ends up not being, having a bad outcome for you. But first things first, again.
Okay, so then first thing I need to do is see Ron.
Right.
And figure out, and then talk to my daughters, and then we'll see.
Yeah, see if there's some workaround that you can do to get that money back in your account would probably be great. But we'll have to see about that.
Okay.
Okay. So anyhow, make an appointment to see Ron, and then get back to me, and we'll see what we've got.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you so much.
Yeah.
I'm a little late, but thank you anyway.
All right. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Hi, Sarah. I haven't seen you since you came back from Garden Ridge for your rehab. So you've been in your own apartment for a while and having some home health. And so how are you doing?
Well, thank you for seeing me. I guess I really did want to come in and talk to you. I've finished my rehab, and I am glad to be back in my apartment. But to be perfectly frank, I'm very concerned. I'm very frustrated. I thought maybe by this point I could be getting back to something of a normal life, but I find that it just takes me so long to do what I used to be able to do in a reasonable amount of time. Just getting dressed in the morning and getting my breakfast made and eating my breakfast. I feel like half the day is gone. And you know, I was a very active person, so I'm quite frustrated that I'm not where I feel like I ought to be. Is this something normal for somebody like that's been through what I've been through?
Yeah, I mean, it really is. I think it's just really hard to all of a sudden not be able to do things that you used to take for granted. Very frustrating. And just wanting, I think there's always a part of us that wants to just be able to get back to where we were before. You know, this is like a bad dream, and now, you know, I'm going to be able to do exactly what I used to do before. And I think now you're sort of being confronted with the fact that maybe you're facing a new normal at this point, that your life is not going to be what it was exactly before.
I guess that's very, it's very frustrating to face that and come to the realization that maybe I'm not going to be as active as I was. But it is frustrating. I also, because I spend so much time with normal day-to-day things, I don't feel like I get out and see people as much. And even when I do, I somehow feel like maybe people look at me in a different way than they used to. So this really is frustrating. Do you think things will get better, or do you think I'm pretty much have to get used to where I am?
Both. I think things will get better, and I think that part of them getting better is that you need to adjust your expectations to reality, basically, you know, and that's okay. That's okay. They're not, you know, having a good life and having to adjust to some disability are not mutually exclusive. So I think we have to get you past that a little bit. Hard, right?
Yes, it is very hard.
Yeah.
I just feel like I've sort of done a turnaround that I just can't do as much as I used to, and I was very active. I was involved in a lot of things.
Yeah.
So this is frustrating. Are other people going through the same thing?
They are, absolutely. If that makes you feel better, I would say that anybody who has gone through any kind of a medical change, a physical change, is struggling exactly the same way that you are. Because, you know, we have this perception of who we are, and when that changes because of something that happens where we're maybe not as mobile as we used to be, or, you know, have other changes, then we really have to sort of adjust our thinking a little bit about what makes us who we are. You are still the person that you've always been, but I think you don't feel that way quite now.
I guess that's right. I guess I don't.
Yeah.
Are there things around that, any kind of programs or anything that help people like me?
Well, I think that I think we just sort of have to start peeling away at what's getting in your way right now of being able to do the things that you want to do. And just sort of concretely, you right now are using a lot of your energy, physical and emotional probably energy, in just, as you said, getting up in the morning, getting dressed, getting breakfast, getting a lunch. So sometimes that can really deplete you, especially because you have gone through so much lately, where you just by the time you've accomplished that, you feel wiped out for the day, and you don't really have the energy to go out and, maybe spend time with friends or do something else. So maybe a small thing that we can think about is, do you need maybe a little bit of help in the morning to just sort of get you on the road?
Oh, you mean like an aide?
Yeah.
Oh my, I guess
know.
I never thought about that. I've always been so very independent. Oh my, that is a kind of a strange concept for me.
Right.
How would that work?
How would that work?
How would I go about that?
Well, I mean, on campus we have home support, and you could probably get somebody to come maybe just an hour or two in the morning, and you might be surprised at how much help that gives you, just in terms of sort of getting you started. And again, not using all of your energy, and just trying to get that morning routine taken care of. I mean, I'm looking at you, and I know that isn't something that you're comfortable with at all.
I'm just not sure how I'd feel about having somebody strange and helping me out. Suppose I didn't like the person.
Yeah.
We didn't kind of
You didn't
mesh.
click, yeah.
We didn't click. Yes.
Well, you can definitely work with home support if you have somebody, that you meet that you really like. See whether they can help to get that, arrange a schedule so that person can be with you most of the time. When it's only just a few hours, sometimes that's not the case. But on the other hand, I think that you're going to have the option of having at least 3 or 4 people that you know. It's really sort of about relationships. So the more time you spend with that person, the better it's going to be. I think also just sort of getting you over the hump a little bit in terms of the fact that that person is necessary for you, but it doesn't mean that you're any less a person. That's a tough one.
Well, I guess I should think about that, shouldn't I?
Well,
that sounds like maybe that's a possible
Yeah, I think
solution.
that would be a first step, and then at that point you can look at how you're feeling in terms of getting out and about in the community. I heard you say that you're a little bit worried about how people are viewing you now that you're different, and I think that that's a little bit of something that you're going to have to just experience as well, getting back out and getting engaged with the people that you normally would have spent time with. And again, it's going to be...
I guess that's something that's going to take some effort on my part, isn't it?
Yeah, I think...
that's not going to happen unless I put forth that effort, right?
Yeah, well said, mm-hmm. Absolutely. I think just getting out the door is always the first step, and being able to just reach out to people. I think that a lot of times when you have something like this happen, I think that your friends don't necessarily know how to approach you either. And if they know you very well, they probably know that you're really having a hard time with it. So
they've been very, very nice to me.
Yeah.
They really have.
Yeah.
But it is different. They can do a lot more than I can, and
Right.
so I'm sort of in a different category.
Yeah, well, it's an adjustment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that you can go about your life and you can have a great life, and we're just going to have to see. You might be putting some barriers in front of you that aren't even there, just in terms of how you're feeling about yourself. So we'll have to just see how that goes. But a lot of this really does take energy. So what I would say is give yourself sort of a start with the help, and that way, when you think about the rest of the day, you can think about it with at least the positive energy that you need to be able to go out and be out in the community. And I think you're going to find out it goes well, better
Well,
than you expect, anyhow.
Well, you certainly have given me some things to think about.
But it's going to be a process for sure. So what I would say is let's start with this. contact home support. I can give you the contact number.
Okay.
And arrange to have somebody come in. They will sort of look at how much time they think you're going to need based on what you tell them you want.
I will. So, will I go to interview them, or will they come to
They'll
talk
come
with
to you.
me?
They'll come to
Okay.
you. And then after you've had that help for a week or so, give me a call and come back in and we'll see how you're doing. How's that sound?
Okay, I think that sounds like
Okay.
a good possibility.
Sounds like a baby step, doesn't it?
I guess so. Yes,
Okay.
it does.
First things first.
Okay.
All right, so I'll talk to you next time then.
All right.
All right.
Thank you.
Sure.
Well, welcome back. Kathleen, that was an extremely interesting show. Those were enormously valuable interviews that you did with those two characters.
Yeah, yeah. That's what we're going for, right? Is to get that information out there.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
All right, shall we start with Cecilia?
Absolutely.
The kind of information that you gave her, that giving away a large sum of one's assets can jeopardize two things. One, the possibility of going on benevolent care fund, and the other is Medicaid, which of course covers long-term care if one
Exactly.
is over in Garden Ridge.
Yeah.
Do you have the sense that this information is pretty much not known by members of the community?
I think we've been, we've been doing some presentations out in the community that have as part of the information that they're given this piece about what it means to be able to access benevolent care fund, and it's not a given.
Oh, that is
that's
being
part of it.
talked
Yeah.
about. You know, I don't remember in the past that this
It
much
has not been
was talked
before.
about.
Yeah, it's only been within the last year that we've really realized what a priority it is for people to understand that, because we have had residents that have gotten themselves into situations where they haven't been able to access the benevolent care fund or Medicaid.
What happens in that kind of instance?
Unfortunately, sometimes they need to leave the community. And I think that that's really, really, I mean, it's hard for everyone. It's hard for the community. It's hard for the person.
Yes.
And I think it's just the idea that that person was not aware that they couldn't give that big lump sum amount of money to a family member. And it is really, what Cecilia and I talked about is, they're a child that needs you, it's hard to say no. But what can happen is that you can put your own life in jeopardy in terms of being able to continue to take care of yourself. So that's what people have to think about.
And this is part of our contract, isn't it?
It is.
A part of our contractual agreement with Greenspring.
It is.
That we will not give away our assets,
Right.
and Greenspring, by the same token, will make the benevolent care fund available if we have met our obligations.
Yeah, and I think, that's exactly right, what you're saying, because a lot of times residents only remember, you promised that we could stay here
Right.
for the rest of our lives. And that's true, but there are responsibilities that the residents also have to be able to follow the rules of the contract, like you said. So that's the information that we really want to get out to people, and encourage them to, again, go to the finance office, have that conversation, and really, really get a clear idea of what your situation is, and be able to know what you shouldn't do, basically what you can't do. I think before we've been a little bit vague about, gifts, what that amount is. It is case by case, because if people have a lot of assets, if you have a couple million, $3 million in assets, then what you're able to gift might be different than if somebody has more, less of an asset. So I think that those are just really good reasons for you to have that conversation.
And you're certainly, Greenspring is certainly not saying you can't give, Christmas gifts and
no.
things of that sort. I mean, the regular small gifts that we all give.
Right, exactly right. Yeah, but if you're worried, then the best person to talk to is Ron Taylor. He's our financial director. He's very accessible, he's very clear, and I think that anybody that makes that appointment will come away with good knowledge that they need.
All right. I think that's very valuable information. Yes, I thought Cecilia, your conversation with Cecilia was very important information for all of us.
Yeah, I mean, you feel bad because I was like, oh, you know, she really is in a bind, you know,
At
because
that
she's
point,
already
done it. Yes.
And Cecilia doesn't show her emotions very much, but I think she was probably really worried now because it really does mean something to her in terms of what, I mean, she's already wondering about, does she have to downsize her apartment and things like that. So she understands that there's some ramifications there, but.
Well, as she was indicating, she's probably fine as long as she remains in independent living. It's the possibility of needing to go to Garden Ridge that begins to strike fear in all of our hearts financially.
Right, right. And since we have absolutely no ability to predict whether that's going to happen to us or not, we really have to plan for that potential happening.
Absolutely, we do.
Yeah.
For sure.
So anyhow.
Which brings us to the second. It brings us to Sarah. That also was extremely interesting and I think pertinent to virtually everybody at some stage in our life in terms of facing various disabilities, sometimes short-term, sometimes permanent.
Yeah.
And that conversation I thought was very helpful. How did you feel about it?
Well, I think she was saying a lot of things that people do say in those situations. Is it normal for me to feel this way? Is it going to get better? You know,
how am I going to deal with this?
How am I going to deal with it? I think, you know, underneath all of it is just, who am I now? You know, that I'm changed fundamentally.
Yes, I thought that was a perfect question.
Yeah, and I think that, so she's struggling with that. And since we know from, you know, our previous play that she did tend to pass judgment on people that had disability.
And not sympathetically.
Not sympathetically. So I think that is probably particularly hard for her because I think there's probably in her mind a sense that maybe now others are judging her, maybe not as sympathetically as well. So that's definitely something that she's going to have to get through. But I think, you know, the idea of getting some help is also tough for people. Kind of the first step maybe to the realization that, you know, things have changed, and nobody likes the idea of feeling dependent on somebody. Not being able to do the things that you used to do normally.
Yes.
That normal word keeps popping up.
Yes, it does.
I think we have to change the definition of normal, but yeah, she's got a ways ahead of her, I think, before she's going to really be able to sort it out completely and hopefully come to some degree of self-acceptance for sure, and also acceptance if it turns out that she really benefits from a little bit of help to get her going.
Well, so many folks we know say that an hour or two in the morning really does, of aid support makes a huge difference.
Yeah, it's a little bit of a jump start. I mean, we talk, I feel like maybe we've talked about this before, but you know, energy conservation is really important when it takes a lot of your energy to do just kind of the basics, the fundamentals of the day, getting dressed, getting showered.
Energy conservation is, I hadn't thought about it quite like that, but that would make sense.
Yeah, but if you use all your energy, I mean, it's physical energy, but it's also emotional energy, because while you're struggling with that, you're also frustrated, and that, you know, is also kind of depleting you emotionally as well. So by the time she gets through all of that, she's kind of wiped out for the day potentially.
She was certainly saying that.
And really angry and frustrated probably, so not the way you want to start your day. Not the way you want to start your day. So, you know, the trade-off that I would offer her is, you know, to give a little bit, and, you know, being able to just say, okay, let me get that person in to help me out, and then let's see how it affects the rest of your day.
Well, and we're so fortunate to be able to have access to help here.
Well, we are, and I mean, I think that that's the other thing too is, if you're outside of Green Spring, getting 2 hours of help is not possible because the agencies have 4-hour minimums at least. So we can do those smaller increments with home support, and it can be just enough. And we can also split the time. So say, she finds out that we'll say 2 hours in the morning is great, but also, because she's out and about during the day, she gets a little bit tired, maybe an hour or two in the evening to just kind of get her through her evening rituals, could also be really helpful. And since home support is here on campus, you can do that. You can split the time, you can have it in different kinds of increments than you would normally be able to have.
The minimum is a half an hour, isn't it?
I think they've switched to an hour. I feel like that's a conversation that everybody has to have with home support, because
Right.
I'm never remembering that myself. But of course, you're going to have that conversation, and like I had told her, she's going to tell the person who's doing the intake
Evaluating.
with her what exactly it is that she wants, and then they're going to be able to figure out the time frame that would best benefit her and meet her needs. So.
Well, again, I think both of these vignettes, you provided wonderful information. And both Carol Tippett and Jenny King did an excellent job, I thought, of presenting their cases.
Very good. Yeah,
So-
good characters. So I know we're going to have follow-up with both of them at some point, so
Indeed, we will.
to be continued.
Absolutely. Thanks, Kathleen.
Yeah.
Thanks for watching us today. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.